The whole dining room went silent when the knife caught the candlelight. Everyone thought I'd just signed my own death warrant, because the blade was meant for the Mafia boss's son, and I was the nobody waitress who got in the way. Everyone waited for Dante Morelli to look at me and destroy me for bleeding on his perfect white tablecloth. But what he did next made the guards freeze, the guests stop breathing, and the city's most dangerous man drop to his knees. Stay until the end, because the sentence he said over my body would decide who inherits this empire. If you want more stories like this, hit like and comment what city you're watching from. 2 hours earlier, Ava Reed was doing what she always did at Leclerc, moving fast, smiling on command, pretending the heat from the kitchen wasn't melting her spine. The air smelled like butter, pepper, and expensive perfume. Her feet burned inside cheap shoes. Her phone vibrated in her apron. Another message about her little brother's meds, a reminder that asthma inhalers and Queen's rent didn't care how tired she was. She didn't open the text. She couldn't. One bad minute, and the manager would cut her from the floor. Table 12, VIP, the manager snapped in her earpiece. No mistakes, no eye contact. Just move. VIP never meant famous. It meant armed. It meant don't get noticed. Then the room shifted. A hush rolled in like smoke. Dante Morelli entered. Publicly, a billionaire, logistics king. Privately, the man the docks and streets called Don Morelli. His suit was midnight. His face was all sharp lines and control. And beside him, gripping his hand too tight, was his son Luca, small, stiff, and trying not to look scared. What Ava didn't know yet was simple and terrifying. Someone in this room wanted Luca dead more than they wanted Dante alive. Ava carried water to table 12. The candles made the crystal glow. The woman across from Dante wore diamonds like armor. 2 men with blank eyes sat with them, too still to be normal guests. Luca's toy car, a supercar, skidded under the table. He slid off his chair to grab it. Ava saw Dante's attention drift to a folder in front of him. Business, even here. Ava poured, careful, silent, until Luca looked up at her and whispered, "Do you ever get scared?" It hit her harder than the bill notifications. She gave him the smallest truth she could afford. "All the time," she whispered. "I just keep moving." Dante's eyes flicked to her. Not anger, a cold assessment, like he was measuring what kind of person speaks to his son. Ava stepped back. She told herself to breathe. She told herself to walk away. Then she noticed the wrong waiter. He moved without a tray. His collar sat too tight. His smile was a mask he forgot to wear. His right hand stayed hidden inside his jacket like it was holding something alive. Ava's skin tightened. She tracked him as he cut straight for table 12. No hesitation. No glance at the manager. He stopped behind Luca's chair, exactly where a child would stand up again. The jacket parted. Not a gun. A slim knife, blade pale and clean. Ava didn't think. She dropped her tray. Glass shattered. Heads turned. In that half-second of noise, she lunged, grabbed the tablecloth, and yanked hard. Luca slid back under the table, just as the blade came down. The knife missed the boy. It found Ava. Heat. Pressure. A bright, savage sting under her ribs. Her breath broke. The room blurred at the edges. Wine tipped. Wax spilled. Blood spread fast across the linen like ink in water. Then, silence. The kind of silence that only happens when power is choosing what happens next. Guards moved. Bodies blocked exits. Someone screamed late, like their lungs forgot how at first. The attacker tried to rip the knife free, but Ava's hand locked around his wrist, slick and shaking. Luca stared from the floor, eyes huge, alive. Dante stood so fast, his chair crashed back. He crossed the space in 2 steps and dropped to his knees beside Ava, like the floor belonged to him too. He didn't go to his son first. He went to the wound, to the blood, to her face. "Don't die," he said, voice low, final. A staff medic rushed in. Dante grabbed him by the collar and dragged him close. You keep her breathing, he ordered. You keep her alive. Sir, we need an ambulance. I own the ambulance, Dante said. He lifted his head and his gaze cut through the room, through phones, through fear, through whoever sent the knife. Hear me, he said, loud enough to turn the air solid. This woman is under my name, under my protection, under my fortune. The diamonds on the table stopped glittering. They looked like broken glass. Ava tried to speak. My brother, she choked. Dante's eyes didn't soften, but they focused like a lock clicking shut. He'll get what he needs, Dante said. Then he leaned closer, so only she could hear the threat inside the promise. You saved my son, so you're untouchable now. He straightened and barked to his men. Get her file. Lock this building down. His gaze flicked once, just once to Luca, still trembling under the table. Then back to Ava. And bring me a notary. Subscribe, because the next scene changes everything. Ava didn't pass out like in movies. The world just kept narrowing, like someone was tightening a belt around her chest. The restaurant lights turned harsh. The voices turned distant. The pain stayed bright and specific, a hot line under her ribs every time she tried to breathe. Dante's men moved her before the first siren even hit the block. A private medic cut her uniform open with scissors that didn't hesitate. Hands pressed hard into the wound. Someone shouted her blood type like it mattered more than her name. Luca's small face hovered in her blur for a second, white, shocked, alive, then vanished behind bodies as Dante's security folded around the boy like armor. Ava heard Dante's voice above everything, steady and violent at the same time. She goes private, he ordered. Not county, not public. If anyone asks, she's family. Family. The word didn't fit her life. It sounded like a sentence. The ambulance wasn't marked. It was black, clean, quiet inside, like a moving hospital suite. Ava lay under cold LEDs with rain hammering the roof like a warning. A paramedic tried to ask questions. Dante answered them without looking away from Ava. Name? Ava Reed, she rasped. Dante repeated it once, exact, as if the syllables had value. The paramedic reached for a radio. Marcus Vale, Dante's head of security, snatched it out of his hand and crushed the transmission with one motion. No open channels, Marcus said. We're dark. Ava tried to lift her head. My brother, she whispered. He needs... Already handled, Dante said, too fast. That speed made her colder than the blood loss. What do you mean? Dante leaned closer, close enough that she could smell gunpowder and expensive soap on him. I mean, he'll breathe, he said. And you'll keep breathing too. The ambulance rocked as it turned hard, then slowed at a gate. Ava caught a flash through the small rear window. A private entrance. Security cameras. Steel barriers. A hospital that didn't feel like a hospital. New York Presbyterian's VIP wing, the kind of place where doors locked quietly and money spoke louder than pain. They rolled her into a corridor that smelled like antiseptic and polished wood. No crowded ER, no waiting. Just a team already assembled, scrubbed, ready, too calm. A surgeon stepped forward. We need authorization, he began automatically, eyes flicking to Ava's torn uniform, her cheap shoes, the blood. Dante didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice. He just looked at the surgeon like the surgeon was the one bleeding. You have it, Dante said. Anything she needs. Now. Sir, the billing... Bill me, Dante cut in. And if she dies, you'll be billing a different world. The surgeon swallowed and moved. Doors burst open. Ava was wheeled into a bright room where everything was white and merciless. Masks, gloves, a needle in her arm. The ceiling tiles slid away, and the darkness finally took her. When she woke, it was to a soft beep and a slow drip and a pain that had changed shape. Not stabbing now. Heavy. Everywhere. She tried to move, and her body reminded her, instantly, that she'd been cut open and stitched back together by strangers who were paid to keep her alive. She turned her head and saw Dante again, sitting in a chair beside her bed like he'd never left. Suit swapped for a dark shirt. Hands clean, eyes not. A thick bandage wrapped his knuckles like he'd hit something hard. Or someone. Ava's throat worked. "Luca," she whispered. "Is he—" "Unhurt," Dante said. "Safe. Sleeping." Ava exhaled, and it hurt so much she almost cried. Dante watched her face like he was cataloguing the pain. "Why did you do it?" he asked. Ava blinked, confused. "Do what?" "You moved before you thought," Dante said. "You didn't ask who I was. You didn't ask what it would cost. You just stepped in." Ava's mouth went dry. "Because he's a kid," she whispered. "Because the knife was—" "For him," Dante finished. His voice didn't shake, but something colder moved under it. "And that means someone close wanted a message delivered through my son's blood." Ava's eyes burned. "Who would—" "Not enemies on the street," Dante said. "Enemies at my table." The door opened. A man in an expensive coat entered with a leather folder, followed by a woman in a beige blazer holding a stamp kit like a weapon. Notary. Legal. The kind of people who didn't belong near a hospital bed unless someone was about to become somebody else. The man nodded to Dante. "Time's tight," he murmured. "News is already moving. Your captains are asking questions. If we don't lock it in now—" Ava tried to push herself up. "What is this?" The man's eyes flicked to her, then away fast, like she was dangerous now. Dante didn't answer immediately. He reached into the folder and pulled out a single page, crisp, already marked with tabs. Then he placed it gently on Ava's blanket, right where her trembling hands could see it. Her name sat at the top in clean black letters. Ava Reed. Under it, Beneficiary and Controlling Trustee, Morelli City Trust. Ava's stomach dropped so hard it felt like another wound opening. "No," she whispered. "That's not mine." Dante's eyes stayed on hers. "It is now," he said. Ava's heart monitor sped up, tattling on her panic. "You can't just—" "I can," Dante said. "And I did." Ava's voice cracked. "Why?" Dante leaned in, low enough that the lawyer and notary couldn't hear the truth in his tone. "Because if you're a waitress who saw a knife, you're a loose end," he said. "They'll finish the job in a hallway, in an elevator, in your apartment." Ava froze. "And if I'm—" "This?" she breathed, staring at the paper like it might bite her. Dante's gaze didn't blink. "Then touching you becomes a declaration of war," he said. "And the people who want you dead have to step into the light to do it." The lawyer cleared his throat, trying to sound polite. "Ms. Reed, this doesn't obligate you to criminal activity," he said quickly. "It's a protective mechanism, asset control, voting authority, a legal shield." Shield. Ava tasted the word. She looked at Dante. "So I'm a shield," she whispered. Dante didn't deny it. "You're a lock," he corrected. "A lock they can't pick with a blade." The notary opened her stamp kit. "We need her acknowledgement," she said. Ava's hands trembled over the page. "If I sign, I become a target." Dante's voice dropped, precise. "You already are," he said. Ava swallowed hard. "My brother," she said again. "You said you handled it." Dante nodded once. "Your brother is in a private clinic," he said. "New inhalers, new specialist, paid, guards. Different name on the door." Ava's eyes widened. "You can't—" "I can," Dante repeated. "And I will, because they'll use him to break you." The lawyer slid a pen toward her. Ava stared at the pen like it was heavier than metal. And then she heard footsteps outside the room. 2 sets, not rushed, not loud. Hard soles on polished floor. Click, click. The nurse station went quiet for half a second, like people were holding their breath. Dante's head turned toward the door. Marcus appeared in the doorway, face tight. "We've got a problem," Marcus said. "Someone tried to access this wing under corporate medical credentials, not ours. Hospital says it's internal." Dante didn't look surprised. He looked confirmed. He leaned close to Ava, voice like a closing door. "Sign," he said, "because the next time they come in here, they won't bring a knife." Ava's fingers closed around the pen, shaking, and her signature scraped across the paper in ugly, desperate strokes. The notary stamped it once. The sound was small, final. Dante took the page back and folded it like a weapon being holstered. Ava's breath came shallow. "What happens now?" she whispered. Dante's eyes stayed cold. "Now," he said, "you don't leave my side." They didn't wheel me through the main halls. They moved me through service corridors that smelled like bleach and hot metal, past locked doors and blank cameras that suddenly glitched. The hospital felt less like a place to heal, and more like a building that could be taken. Marcus Vale walked ahead, clearing corners with two men who didn't wear scrubs and didn't pretend to. Dante stayed beside my bed the whole time, one hand on the rail, eyes forward, as if his focus alone could keep the world from touching me. Every few steps, I heard it again. Hard soles on the polished floor. Click, click, like a metronome for danger. We hit the loading bay and the air changed. Cold rain smell. Diesel. A private ambulance idling with its lights off, black paint swallowing reflections. Two SUVs waited behind it like teeth. "No sirens," Marcus muttered. "No radio." "Dark," Dante answered. One word. Final. They slid me into the ambulance first, then rolled Luca in after me, wrapped in a blanket too big for his small body. He didn't cry. That scared me more than tears would have. His eyes stayed locked on mine like I was the only stable thing left in his night. "You're bleeding because of me," he whispered. The sentence hit like the knife all over again. I forced a breath through the stitches. "You're alive," I said. "That's the only part that matters." Luca swallowed hard, trying to be brave with a child's fragile discipline. Then his fingers reached out and caught my hand, careful of the IV line. Warm, trembling, real. That's when I understood the worst truth. If they couldn't kill Dante, they would keep trying to kill the part of him that could still feel. The ambulance rolled out, and Manhattan blurred past in rain-smeared glass. The city looked normal from the inside of a cage. Yellow cabs, neon, people under umbrellas who had no idea a war was moving beside them in silence. The medic on Dante's payroll checked my vitals without speaking. Luca kept holding my hand, like he'd decided that was his job now. Dante sat across from us, shoulders squared, gaze cutting through the windshield, like he could see threats before they happened. "Who wants him dead?" I managed, voice thin. Dante didn't look at Luca when he answered. "Someone who thinks my son is a lever," he said. "Someone who thinks fear will make me sign away control." "Control of what?" I asked. Dante's jaw tightened. "The city," he said, and it didn't sound like a metaphor. The ambulance dipped into an underground ramp and steel gates opened as if they'd been waiting for his arrival. No signage, no public entrance. Just a throat of concrete leading into a private garage under a building that didn't advertise its true owner. The doors sealed behind us with a hydraulic sigh. The air warmed. The noise disappeared. The elevator they used wasn't glass and chrome. It was armored steel with a keycard and a camera that looked you in the eye. We rose fast. My ears popped. Luca's grip tightened. Dante's phone buzzed once. He glanced at it and his face went colder. "They're calling it an incident," he said to Marcus. "They're already shaping it." "We're shaping it too," Marcus replied. But his voice had a strain in it now. A hairline crack. The elevator opened onto a floor that felt like a bunker dressed as luxury. Quiet carpet. Thick doors. Men standing still in corners like statues that could shoot. A woman in a fitted suit appeared with a tablet and a medical bag, calm and efficient. She didn't introduce herself. She didn't need to. Dante's world didn't run on introductions. It ran on roles. I was rolled into a private room with blackout curtains and a view I couldn't access. The bed was too clean. The air smelled like expensive wood and hospital alcohol. Luca was guided into an adjacent room by a gentle-looking nanny with eyes that never stopped scanning. He turned back twice to look at me, as if he didn't trust doors anymore. When he was gone, The silence got heavier. Dante stood at the foot of my bed like a judge who hadn't decided my sentence yet. He nodded once, and his lawyer stepped in, the same man from the hospital, carrying a thick folder with tabs like the spine of a new life. "The trust is live," the lawyer said. "Filed, recorded, protective clauses engaged." I stared at him. Protective clauses? The lawyer hesitated, then looked at Dante for permission. Dante gave a small nod. "If you die under suspicious circumstances," the lawyer said, choosing each word like it could be used against him later, "the Morelli City Trust transfers into a public charitable foundation with federal oversight. No single beneficiary, no private control. It becomes untouchable." My stomach turned. "So they can't kill me to get it," I whispered. Dante's eyes locked on mine. "They can still kill you," he said. "They just won't be rewarded for it." That wasn't comfort. It was strategy. "Why not put Luca in it?" I asked, and the question tasted like blood. "He's your son. He's the reason they're moving," Dante cut in. "If I put his name on paper, they'll hunt him until he's a headline." I flinched at the bluntness. Dante leaned in, voice dropping. "You," he said, "are a surprise. They didn't plan for you." The lawyer slid a page closer. It wasn't just money. It was structure. Voting proxies, property deeds, port contracts, entire districts of rent streams stacked into one legal weapon. I felt dizzy, not from medication, from scale. "This is insane," I breathed. "This is the city," Dante said again. Then he added the part that made my skin go cold. "And someone inside my house tried to take it tonight." Marcus stepped forward and placed a small evidence bag on the bedside table. Inside was the knife the attacker used. Cleaned now, bagged, tagged. The blade still looked hungry. "We pulled fibers off the handle," Marcus said. "Uniform material, not restaurant issue." The lawyer opened a photo on his tablet and turned it to me. A wristband, black, minimal. A stylized M inside a circle. "Corporate, private security. That mark belongs to one of your companies," I whispered before I could stop myself. Marcus's eyes narrowed. "How would you know that?" I swallowed. "Because I've seen it," I said. "Not tonight. Before." Dante's gaze sharpened. "Where?" I forced my mind back through the restaurant chaos, through candlelight and panic. Then it clicked. The wrong waiter, the tight collar, the hidden hand. When he lifted his arm, his cuff shifted. A cufflink flashed. Not cheap, not random. A stylized M inside a circle. Same mark. "His cufflink," I said, voice shaking. "It wasn't restaurant issued. It was branded, like he belonged to something." Dante didn't move, but the room felt like it tightened around that fact. "Morelli Corporate Security," the lawyer murmured. "Internal contractors." Marcus's jaw flexed. "That's supposed to be our clean layer," he said. Dante's voice stayed calm. "It isn't clean anymore." A soft chime sounded from the hallway. A door sensor. Marcus touched his earpiece. "Perimeter check," he murmured. Then he frowned. "One of the cameras just went to loop." My heart rate jumped on the monitor. Dante didn't even glance at it. He looked at Marcus. "Which camera?" "West corridor," Marcus said. "Outside Luca's room." The sentence hit me in the chest harder than the stitches. I tried to sit up, and pain dragged me back down. "Luca." Dante was already moving. Fast. Quiet. Deadly. He crossed the room and opened the door with a gun in his hand, like it had always been there. Marcus followed, 2 men behind him. I lay there useless, listening. No shouting, no chaos. Just distant footsteps, then a single muffled thud, like a body meeting carpet. Silence. Then Dante's voice, low, controlled. "Bring him." A minute later, Marcus returned, dragging a man in a black maintenance jacket, wrists zip-tied, face pale. Hard soles. Click, click. The same sound. The man's eyes flicked to me and away like I was a mistake he hadn't budgeted for. Dante stood behind him, one hand on the back of his collar like he was holding a leash. He was outside my son's door, Dante said softly, with a keycard that shouldn't exist. The man tried to speak. Dante tightened his grip. "Who sent you?" Dante asked. The man swallowed, eyes darting. I don't know," he lied, too fast. Dante looked at me. "You spent your life reading people," he said. "Look at him." My throat went dry. I stared at the man's hands. His nails were clean. His knuckles were bruised in the pattern of someone who trained. His maintenance badge sat slightly crooked, like it had been clipped on in a hurry. And on his wrist, half hidden under the sleeve, that same black band. The stylized M. "He's not maintenance," I said. "He's security dressed as maintenance." The man's face tightened. Dante's eyes didn't blink. "Who's security?" Dante asked. The man's jaw trembled. Then he made a fatal mistake. He glanced, just once, toward Marcus, as if checking whether Marcus would save him. The room went colder. Marcus didn't react outwardly, but I felt it. A shift, a tiny fracture turning into a crack. Dante noticed too. He moved closer to the man's ear and spoke like a whisper that could kill. "If Marcus is your hope," Dante said, "you chose the wrong hope." The man's eyes widened. "No." Dante cut him off. "Take him downstairs," he ordered, alive and silent. The men hauled the intruder away. Dante turned back to me, and for the first time all night I saw the truth on his face. Not fear. Rage under discipline. "They breached my hospital," he said. "They breached my home." He stepped closer to my bed. "Now they'll try to breach you," he added. I swallowed through pain. "What do you want from me?" Dante's gaze locked on mine like a contract. "I want you to keep doing what you did in that dining room," he said. "Move before they do." I stared at him, then at the closed door to Luca's room, and understood what he'd really handed me when he stamped my name onto his fortune. Not money, a target, a responsibility, and a seat at a table where hesitation got children killed. Dante didn't go back to sleep after they found the man outside Luca's door. Nobody did. The tower turned into a held breath. Every hallway a choke point, every camera a potential lie. Ava lay back against the pillows because her body demanded it, but her mind refused. She kept hearing that click, click of hard soles and thinking how close a kid had come to dying behind a door labeled safe. Marcus returned 20 minutes later with rain on his jacket and a hard look in his eyes, like he'd walked through something ugly and decided not to describe it. "He's talking," Marcus said. Dante didn't ask who. He didn't need to. "To who?" Dante asked. Marcus hesitated half a beat too long. "Your lawyer," he said, and Ava felt the room tighten around that word. The lawyer stepped in right behind Marcus, face pale, folder clutched like a shield. "He claims he doesn't know the buyer," the lawyer said quickly. "He says he was paid through a contractor. The band is Morelli Shield, yes, but it's a shell inside a shell." Dante's eyes narrowed. "Everything is a shell when someone wants to hide," Dante said. He turned to Ava. "You said you'd seen that mark before," he reminded her. "In the restaurant." Ava swallowed through pain. "On the attacker," she said. "Cufflink." The lawyer's fingers tightened on his folder. "That could be planted," he offered immediately. Too immediate. Ava felt a cold prickle run up her spine. Dante didn't react outwardly, but his gaze flicked once to the lawyer's hands and then away. Ava noticed what he noticed. The lawyer wore cufflinks too. Subtle. Expensive. She couldn't see the emblem from here, but she didn't like how her brain wanted to. Luca's door opened a crack at the end of the corridor, and the nanny's face appeared, tense. "He's awake," she whispered. Dante moved instantly, all the violence in him folding into gentleness as he slipped inside. The door shut. Ava was left with Marcus, the lawyer, and the quiet hum of machines that kept her alive. Marcus stepped closer to her bed, voice low. "Listen to me," he said. "If he asks you to do something, you do it fast. No questions in front of people." Ava's throat tightened. "What are you not telling me?" Marcus's jaw flexed. "They hit your brother," he said. The sentence punched air out of her chest harder than the stitches. "What?" she rasped. Marcus's eyes stayed hard. "The clinic in Queens," he said. "Two men, scrubs, tried to get close to him with a new inhaler. Our guys stopped it, but they ran. We're moving him now." Ava's vision pulsed. "If they can reach him, they can," Marcus cut in. "That's the point." The lawyer stepped forward, voice smooth, trying to sound helpful. "Ms. Reed, I understand this is distressing, but your brother is not—" "Don't say his name like you know him," Ava snapped, and it came out sharper than she meant. The lawyer blinked, offended. Marcus didn't. He watched the lawyer like he was measuring angles. Ava forced her breathing to slow. "Move him here," she said, voice shaking. "To the tower." The lawyer started to protest. "That would expose—" "She can authorize it," Marcus said, cutting him off. He nodded toward the black access tablet on the bedside table, the one Dante's people had placed there like a loaded gun. "You're the trustee now," Marcus reminded Ava. "Morelli Shield, Morelli Medical, Fleet Access. If you say it, it happens." The idea made Ava dizzy. "I don't even know how," she whispered. Marcus leaned in and tapped the tablet awake. A biometric prompt glowed. "Voice," he said. "Say, trustee override, emergency protection protocol." Ava stared at it. A waitress with a knife wound and a city's fortune under her name. That was the joke the devil would tell. Her jaw tightened. "Trustee override," she said, voice rough. "Emergency protection protocol." The tablet chimed. The screen populated with options like a control room, vehicle dispatch, security contracts, access gates, medical authorizations. Ava's stomach rolled. She pressed the one labeled Family Protection, and the system asked for a designation. Her thumb shook as she typed, "Ben Reed." That name, her brother's real name, looked naked on a screen that belonged to monsters. She hit confirm. A new notification flashed. "Armored transfer initiated. ETA 9 minutes." The lawyer's face tightened. "You can't just—" "She can," Marcus said, voice flat. "She just did." Another notification popped up instantly. "Payment freeze. Morelli Shield contractors." Ava blinked. "I didn't—" Marcus's eyes narrowed. "You triggered a cascade," he said. "If Shield is compromised, the system freezes their pay so they can't move money and vanish." The lawyer swallowed hard. Ava felt it then, like a wire humming in the air. Someone in this building would feel that freeze like a hand on their throat. And whoever it was would move fast. Luca's door opened again. Dante stepped out, calmer on the surface, more dangerous underneath. Luca stayed behind him, clutching a blanket, eyes on Ava like she was a lighthouse. "Your brother is moving," Dante said to Ava without preamble. "You're coming." Ava's pulse spiked. "I can't—" "You can," Dante said. "Because they're not hunting me tonight. They're hunting the people I can't afford to lose." Luca's small voice cut through the hallway. "Is she going to die?" he asked, blunt, terrified. Ava's throat closed. Dante crouched to Luca's level and spoke with a softness that didn't match his hands. "No," he said. "Not if I can help it." Then he looked up at Ava. "And not if you help me," he added. And there it was again. The deal inside the protection. They moved Ava into an SUV that felt like a vault on wheels. Luca sat beside her, pressed close, as if his body understood she had taken pain meant for him and didn't want to let her drift away. Dante sat across from them, eyes on the road feed, Marcus in the front seat with a headset and a gun low in his lap. The city outside was wet and silver, streets reflecting headlights like broken mirrors. They took the route Marcus chose, not the fastest, the safest, or what was supposed to be. Halfway through a tunnel, the SUV ahead of them braked hard. Ava's stomach dropped. A maintenance truck sat sideways across the lane, hazard lights blinking like a fake apology. Too neat. Too early. Dante's gaze sharpened. "Reverse," he said, calm as a man ordering wine. Marcus swore under his breath. Behind them, a black van slid into place, blocking the exit. Trap, clean, corporate. Not street sloppy. Luca's fingers dug into Ava's hand. Ava's breathing went shallow. She tasted the knife all over again. The first shot didn't come. The first thing that happened was worse. Someone hit the tunnel lights. Darkness slammed down, absolute. Then emergency red strobes flickered on, and in that pulsing light, Ava saw silhouettes step out of the maintenance truck, moving like trained men, not panicked criminals. A suppressed pop. The lead SUV's windshield spiderwebbed. Guards shouted. The tunnel filled with muffled chaos. Dante didn't flinch. "Ava," he said, voice low, cutting through everything. "Open the gates." "What?" Ava gasped. Marcus turned his head just enough to bark. "Service bay gate. 200 meters. It's locked on normal protocol." Ava's hands shook so hard she almost dropped the tablet Marcus shoved back at her. The screen was already open. Tunnel infrastructure access. A button glowed, Municipal Service Door. It asked for authorization. She didn't have time to be scared. She pressed it. "Trustee override," she said, louder this time, the words tasting like power and poison. "Open it." The tablet chimed. Somewhere ahead, metal groaned. A sidewall door began to lift. The SUV driver punched the accelerator, tires screaming in wet grime. Bullets thunked into armor. The car lurched toward the opening like a beast diving for shelter. Ava held Luca down with her body on instinct, the same instinct that had thrown her into a knife. Red light flashed across Luca's terrified face. Then the SUV slammed through the half-open door, sparks spraying as metal scraped metal, and they shot into a narrow service corridor just as the door began to grind shut behind them. A final suppressed shot cracked and buried itself in the closing steel. The door sealed with a brutal clang. Silence hit hard. Only breathing remained. Ava's, Luca's, Dante's steady as stone. Marcus exhaled once, sharp. "They knew the route," he said quietly. Dante's eyes went colder. "Yes," he agreed. Luca clutched Ava's sleeve with both hands now, shaking. Ava stared at the closed steel behind them and felt the shape of the night tighten. Someone inside Dante's world had planned this like a board meeting. And the moment she used the trustee override, the traitor would know exactly what she could do now. Dante leaned forward slightly, eyes on Ava like he was placing a final piece on a board. "Good," he said. "Now we stop running." They brought us back into the tower through a service shaft that smelled like concrete and cold air. No lobby. No cameras the public could subpoena. Just steel doors, codes, and men who didn't speak unless spoken to. The moment the elevator sealed behind us, Dante's face went still in a way that made my skin tighten. Luca stayed pressed to my side, his small fingers locked around my sleeve like fabric could keep the world from reaching him. Marcus stared at the floor indicator, jaw clenched, like he could feel the building's nervous system shifting. "They knew the route," he said again, quieter now, like repeating it made it more real. Dante's eyes didn't move. "Yes," he answered. "Because the route wasn't the target." I swallowed through pain. Then what was? Dante finally looked at me. "You," he said. One word. Clean, a blade. "They wanted to see if you'd use the trustee override. They wanted proof you can open doors I can't." The elevator opened onto the bunker floor. Men turned. Screens glowed. The air was thick with controlled panic. Someone had been waiting. The lawyer. Standing too close to the table, too close to the documents, hands on the folder like he owned it. When he saw us walk in alive, something flashed in his eyes. Relief, then irritation, then the mask again. "Thank God," he said, voice smooth. "We need to move quickly. There are legal fires everywhere. The captains are—" "Stop," Dante said. Not loud. Absolute. The lawyer froze mid-step. Dante walked past him without looking, straight to the wall of monitors. A live feed from the tunnel showed the maintenance truck still blocking lanes. Police lights now arriving too late. The black van already gone. Clean exit. Corporate discipline. Dante's gaze slid to a small icon in the corner of the screen. System logs. He looked at Marcus. "Show me the override trace," he said. Marcus pulled up the access log, a timestamp, a user, trustee, Ava Reed, a location ping, tunnel service door. And underneath it, a second line that made Marcus's face tighten. Forward alert sent to council node. I felt my stomach drop. "Council node," I whispered. Marcus's eyes flicked to the lawyer. The lawyer's smile thinned. "That's standard," he said quickly. "Compliance alert. So we can document trustee actions." "No," Marcus said, voice hard. "That's not standard. That's a private relay." Dante finally turned. He looked at the lawyer the way he'd looked at the attacker in the restaurant, like a problem he was done tolerating. "You routed her override notification to yourself," Dante said calmly. The lawyer lifted his hand slightly. "Sir, I can explain." Dante crossed the room in 2 steps and grabbed the lawyer by the collar, slamming him against the glass wall hard enough to shake the monitors. Luca flinched behind me. I held him tighter with one arm and fought not to gasp from the pain. The lawyer's folder dropped to the floor. Papers slid out like white blood. "Who hired the knife?" Dante asked softly. The lawyer's eyes widened. "No one hired." Dante tightened his grip. The lawyer's voice cracked. "It wasn't supposed to hit the boy," he blurted, and the room went dead. Every guard stopped moving. Even the screens seemed to go quiet. Luca made a small sound in his throat. Dante didn't blink. "Say it again," Dante ordered. The lawyer's face collapsed into panic. "It was supposed to scare you," he stammered. "A message, to sign, to soften. They wanted you unstable." "Who?" Dante said, and the word was a gun cocking. The lawyer's eyes darted to the side, toward the shadows, toward men who weren't present. "The council," he whispered. "Your own captains, the ones who think Luca makes you weak. They wanted him gone, and they wanted you to look like you failed." My skin went ice cold. I looked down at Luca and felt him shaking, silent tears wetting my sleeve. The knife wasn't just an attack, it was a vote. Dante released the lawyer just enough to breathe. "And you," Dante said, voice low, "you were the pen." The lawyer gulped. "I'm your counsel." "You're their channel," Marcus cut in. Dante looked at Marcus. "Bring the captains," Dante said. "Now." Marcus didn't ask how. He already had the list. He moved fast, fingers on his phone, calling men who would come because Dante's summons was not optional. Dante crouched in front of Luca, gentle again in the most terrifying way. "Look at me," he said. Luca's eyes lifted, wet, afraid. Dante touched Luca's cheek with 2 fingers. "You're not leaving this building today," he said. "And you're not dying because grown men want power." Luca's voice trembled. "Is she going to go away?" He meant me. Dante's eyes flicked to me once. "No," Dante said. "She's staying." Then he stood and faced the room like a judge about to start court. "Ava," he said. I swallowed hard. "Yes. You opened a door tonight that saved my son," Dante said. "Now you'll open another." He nodded to the table. Marcus placed the tablet in front of me, its screen already glowing with the trust control panel. Luca pressed closer to me like he felt where this was going. "What door?" I whispered. Dante's gaze stayed steady. "The money door," he said, "the one they built to bleed me quietly." The captains arrived in waves, men with rings, men with scars hidden under collars, men whose eyes had never learned softness. They filed into the room and sat at the long table without speaking, glancing at Luca, then at me, and hiding their reaction behind discipline. One of them, Salvatore Greco, smiled like he was offering sympathy. "Boss," he said warmly, "we're all relieved the boy is safe. Terrible incident." His eyes slid to me. "And the girl?" "Brave. But you're making decisions under stress." Dante didn't respond. He looked at me. I understood. They wanted to paint him as emotional and me as temporary. They wanted a rollback, a signature, a neat correction. My hands shook as I lifted the tablet. Pain pulsed under my bandages, but the fear had changed shape. It wasn't helpless fear anymore. It was the fear of missing the moment to strike first. I opened the security contractor ledger. Morelli Shield. Subcontractors, payments, payout schedules. I saw the same stylized M emblem everywhere, like a brand burned into paperwork. Ava, Dante said quietly, freeze their flow. I stared at the screen. A button, disbursements. Another, emergency suspension. A warning popped up. Action will trigger audit trail. I looked at Dante. If I do this, I whispered, they'll know it's me. Dante's eyes didn't blink. They already do, he said. I pressed emergency suspension. The tablet chimed once, then a cascade of notifications erupted. Payments halted. Access keys disabled. Contractor badges invalidated. Across the room, Salvatore's phone buzzed. His smile died for half a second before he rebuilt it. That half second was enough. Dante's voice turned cold. You felt that, Dante said to Salvatore. Because it hit you. Salvatore's eyes narrowed. That's ridiculous. Dante cut him off with a gesture. Marcus hit the big screen and a list of contractor accounts appeared. Shells inside shells. Then the tunnel footage. Then the restaurant footage slowed to the moment the attacker's cuff shifted. The cufflink flashed. Stylized M. Salvatore's jaw tightened. Another captain shifted in his seat like the chair suddenly had needles. You used my corporate security to bring a knife near my son, Dante said, voice low. You tried to make me sign away control through fear. He leaned forward. And you thought you could bury the witness. He looked at me. They didn't plan for you, he repeated, like a verdict. The captain started talking at once. Denials, outrage, performative shock. Dante let it burn for 3 seconds. Then he raised one hand. The room snapped quiet. Ava, he said, read the clause. My throat went dry. I scrolled to the trust section Dante's lawyer had explained earlier. A poison pill clause, but in this world, poison was protection. If the trustee is harmed, I read aloud, voice shaking, all controlling assets transfer into a public foundation with federal oversight, and all private beneficiaries are cut off. The words landed heavy. No one could kill me and still win. No one could kill Luca and keep control clean. Dante looked around the table slowly. So here is your choice, Dante said. You resign, you disappear, you live, or you fight me, and you lose your money without even getting my crown. Salvatore's face went tight with fury. You'd hand the city to a waitress? He spat. Dante's eyes stayed dead calm. I already did, he said, because she bled for my son. He leaned closer, voice dropping like a lid closing, and because she's the only one in this room who didn't want anything from me before tonight. Salvatore stood suddenly, chair scraping. A guard moved. Dante lifted a finger, and the guard froze. Dante wasn't worried about guns right now. He was worried about signatures. Salvatore's mouth opened again, but he stopped when his phone buzzed a second time. A bank alert, then a third. The freeze was spreading, touching networks, accounts, port contracts. The entire clean machine was stalling because one wounded waitress had pressed one button. Salvatore's shoulders sagged a fraction. You can't keep this stable, he hissed at me, eyes sharp now. You'll drown. I looked down at Luca clinging to my sleeve, then back at the men who'd tried to use him like a lever. Maybe, I said, voice low, but you're drowning first. One by one, the captains folded. Not with speeches. With signatures on resignations, Dante's lawyer slid across the table like a dealer offering cards. They signed to keep breathing. They signed to keep families safe. They signed because for the first time, murder wasn't profitable. When the last pen lifted, Dante turned away, as if the room had become boring. He walked to the window, looking out at the city waking up beneath grey clouds. Luca stood behind me now, small and silent. I felt him watching Dante like a child watching a storm decide where to go next. Is it over? I whispered. Dante didn't turn. Not for me, he said. Then he looked back at me, and for the first time his voice held something like exhaustion. They will come for you, he said. In court, in press, in whispers. They'll try to make you quit. I swallowed. Then why do this to me? Dante's eyes stayed on mine. Because my son needs a future that isn't built on fear, he said. And because if I keep holding it, they'll keep aiming at him. He stepped closer and lowered his voice so only I could hear the final twist. The fortune isn't a reward, he said. It's a transfer of fire. My phone buzzed. A single message from an unknown number. 2 words. New trustee. I stared at it, chest tight. Dante's gaze flicked to the screen, then away. We leave in 10, he said. You and Luca go to a place even I don't know. And you? I asked. Dante's mouth barely moved. I become the shadow again, he said. Luca's fingers caught my hand. I squeezed back, careful of the stitches, and looked out at the city that had no idea what changed overnight. The biggest fortune in the city wasn't sitting in Dante's hands anymore. It was sitting in mine. And the only reason I was still breathing to hold it was because I'd taken a knife meant for a child who didn't deserve this world.